near the numbers that men are. But let's start with leadership.
Sure. Well, by the time I kind of cycled through my jobs in Philadelphia, there had been a real change in that town. I was a member of something called the Pennsylvania Women's Forum. It was sort of a group of top women leaders. I was president for a while, and the other members of this group were just amazing people. Head of University of Pennsylvania, and Pew Charitable Trust, and the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and all sorts of people like that. So, frankly, at that point, certainly in the nonprofit sphere, there was a woman editor of the Inquirer. So it felt like, there had really been a big change. Then I come to New York, and my boss, Sam Norwich, starts to introduce me to the various important folks in the Jewish world, the sort of alphabet soup of organizations, and I'm just more and more struck by how many men there were, and that I was really having trouble finding a woman, to the degree that, and Ruth knows this, I actually wrote some notes to women that I really wanted to meet, just to introduce myself, because I was kind of starved for that conversation, and also because I knew they'd be out there. I just didn't know who they were necessarily. So that started me thinking, frankly. And the great thing about being a journalist is you have a hunch, and then you go and try to figure out, what are the facts, So I thought, well, let's compile a list of the largest Jewish communal organizations, the federations. There's already a sort of defined group of 18 federations that are the largest in the United States, the national advocacy and service organizations, and then the religious groups. And I thought it would be a smart idea for us to compile this list anyhow, frankly. We did this maybe in the middle of 2009 because I felt like it was just a good thing for the staff to have. And we just asked a really simple question: who's in charge and how much do they make? And so our first story, which was published to be timed to be in the forward that gets sent to the General Assembly in November of 2009, found that of the 75, there were only 11 organizations that were headed by women, and that women were earning only about 61 cents on the dollar to what men were earning. And even though this kind of imbalance in leadership and salary exists in the broader world, it still was worse in the Jewish world. I think we presented this in just a very straightforward fashion. Of course, we also just sleepless nights before this, because you can imagine just working with lots of numbers here. And so, happily, we know that our numbers are correct. I have to say the most discouraging thing the first year that we did these big stories in 2009 was the lack of reaction. It was the quiet, it was the silence. Yes, a few people who connected to this issue immediately, and we certainly wrote to us, and we certainly heard from sort of people in the trenches. Remember that these numbers are the only part of the story. 75% of the people who work at Jewish communal organizations are women. So you have a huge female workforce and very few women on the top. So there's a real imbalance there. And so we heard from those folks, but we heard very little from the top folks. I'm sensing a change. I really am. This year, I think, combined with the work that the Jewish Communal Services Association, do I have that name right? Brenda Gewertz's group did a survey that also found a lot of similar things. I'm sensing that there are more people now aware of this and willing to talk about it.